Welcome back, everyone. In today's lecture, we are going to continue our discussion of iteration, and we'll also take a look at some advanced data structures. And then, towards the end of this lecture, we will take a look at a very important skill, the skill of writing high-quality test cases. This skill was always important. It is even more important today with the rise of generative AI tools that can produce code which may not be correct. So our ability to write high-quality tests serves as a check against code that might contain bugs. So let's get started first by taking a look at this recursive function. I have called this function mystery, so we don't know its purpose. I would like you to take a look at this code. But before we do that, there's some new syntax over here, as you can see in the signature line. I have said that the parameter n is an integer, but then I have written equal to 3. What does this mean? Well, this syntax means that the parameter n has a default argument, 3. This means that you can call this mystery function either with some argument or with no arguments at all. We have seen an example of such a function. Do you remember the input function, which you can call with no arguments at all? Well, this mystery function can also be called without any arguments, and we will see how it works on this Python tutor link. Hopefully, that review of how it works will help you understand what this function's purpose is. So let's try and execute this code. When we click on Next, notice how this mystery function gets defined. It gets defined as a variable that refers to or labels this function object. And notice that this definition records the fact that the parameter n has a default argument 3. Now down here on line 9, I'm going to call the mystery function, and notice that I'm calling it with no arguments at all, which means that when I call this function, I get the default argument, namely 3. So at this point, n is 3. I go into the body of the function. Of course, n is greater than 0, so I come into this if condition. Here I call the input function, again with no arguments, and we know what that does. It just asks me to input something. So let us say over here I want to input the empty string. So I will just click submit, and the execution continues. Now on line 4, we ask if result. What does this mean? Well, we're checking if this object is truthy. All non-empty strings are truthy, and only the empty string is falsy. This result, since I have not entered anything, is the empty string. This is in double quotes. This is the empty string. So this if condition is not going to be true. So I will not go into the body of the if condition. I will continue here. And here I make a recursive call, and this time I'm calling the mystery function with an argument. On line 9, I called it with no arguments, which means it was called with the default argument. But here I'm calling it with the argument n minus 1. N here is of course 3, so this means the red arrow will jump to line 1, and I am in a fresh instance of the mystery function, this time where n is 2. I hope you're getting a sense of what's going on here. I'm going to enter here, n is greater than 0, so I will come in here, and again I will input something. Let us say this time I actually type in something. Let us say I type in ABC. I click on submit. The value ABC is a non-empty string, so that of course is truthy. I'm now going to come into this if condition, and I'm going to return this result. So this instance of the mystery function is ready to return this object ABC. Who is it going to return it to? Well, the way recursion usually works, you look at the function that called it, which was the previous instance of mystery, and that was also ready to return. So when I click on next, you will notice that this red arrow will jump to essentially the same point, but now I'm in the previous instance of mystery and I'm ready to return a value. Where is this value going to be returned to? Well, who called this instance of mystery? The global frame. And there I wanted to print this object, the return value. So you're going to see ABC get printed. Here, this first ABC was printed because I inputted that value, but now when I click on next, the value ABC gets printed as a result of the statement on line 9. So I hope you can guess at this point what this mystery function does.